Well, I liked this episode. I really did, especially because of 2-3 scenes, which included obviously the scene with Ryan, then the whole A-Train storyline. But anyways, let's talk about everything systematically, and I would really love to start with the whole Ryan thing itself. Well, right at the end of the episode, we see Ryan actually going onto the camera and saying whatever he did, but the expression on Butcher's face, absolutely loved it, because that was the one thing that backing Ryan to do the right thing, because he is after all the son of his mother. That means he definitely has a lot of Becca in him, and he was literally brought up by Becca. So Butcher was really tapping into that side of Ryan which included Becca, and that really paid off, and I absolutely loved it. But to do that, he really did a very smart thing in this episode, which was sending that gift of the photo frame of Butcher, Becca and the dog. Well, that was the masterstroke, and I'm just really happy that the one thing that Butcher really backed on, that paid off at the end, and it was with Ryan. But obviously, more than that, the expression on Butcher's face, I believed in you. Yes, I believed in you. That was the expression, and I absolutely loved it. But with whatever Ryan does, there are always two sides to the story. First is obviously of Butcher, but the second, Homelander. What does that scene actually mean to Homelander? Well, at the moment Ryan said, I miss my mother and she's dead and she really loved her husband Billy, there we can just see that shift in Homelander's face, and that was just enough to indicate that okay, he has lost Ryan, and definitely he has lost everything. Homelander has literally lost everything, and there is nothing for him to lose now, because he will just go all guns blazing. And whenever we see Homelander anywhere near to that sort of a thing, I mean, with his powers, he's just unstoppable. Well, Butcher has really unearthed that version of Homelander which will not back down, and it's scary. But anyways, let's move on to the second thing which I really loved. That was the twist at the end with the shape-shifting soup, because I did not see it coming. And the result of that shape-shifting soup was that Annie is now being held captive, and the really important documents that were in that hard drive and that laptop is now with Sister Sage. Probably. Why? Let me tell you. Because planting of that shape-shifting soup was all an elaborate plan of Sister Sage. Because right at the end, when Sister Sage gets fired, and I really like that as well, we'll talk about that later, Sister Sage says that she knew that A-Train was the League and she was actually handling him. That means whatever she was actually showing to A-Train, that was all planned, that was all part of her grand scheme of things, that were all part of her big plan. So that really means that Annie is now being held captive by Sister Sage herself. But here is the interesting bit. Sister Sage is no longer associated with Homelander, and she might have a revenge to look forward to against Homelander. But now let's talk about A-Train. I was so happy to see A-Train come to the rescue of Annie and Butcher at the end when they were fighting Black Nova and Deep. Well, the redemption arc of A-Train in this episode was really teased from the start, and I really loved the fact that now A-Train is really adamant on helping the boys. He's on the side of the boys. Now let's talk about the character of MM. Well, there was again a scene in this episode which kind of teased the early demise of MM in this season at least. I mean, come on. His scene again with his wife, that was again a hint at setting him up to get killed at the end. MM almost got out of all the shenanigans. He almost got out, but he gets back in, and probably, yeah, there are high chances that he can get killed off at the end. I mean, at the end of this season. Now let's talk about Frenchie, Kimiko and the virus. Well, I have to say, let's talk about Frenchie and Kimiko first. Well, anyways, I love their whole dynamic, and yeah, whatever they did, they shared each other's backstories, and they even figured out to fix each other. But in the middle of that, there was that Dr. Samisha, and he ran away, but he did a very cruel thing, and he injected Kimiko with that virus. But again, that was another, that typical boys scene where Frenchie had to cut Kimiko's leg and, preserve that leg. And now they've really set up the story for the virus for the last episode of how that virus could be used. And obviously they are going to extract some amount of virus from that Kimiko's leg, which has been chopped off. And then Frenchie alone will try to regenerate that virus, which can top Homelander. But I'll be honest, I'm not really impressed with how they, used the storyline of that virus, which came from Gen V. They had literally the entire season of Boys, this season to use that virus, but they really delayed. First of all, they really delayed the introduction of that virus. And even when that virus was introduced in the story, first they said that it will create, it will be a weapon of mass destruction, it will create a genocide of soups, and then they just bring in Frenchie, and they'll tone it down. I mean, come on, I was not really impressed with how they executed the story of the virus. But anyways, well, what will happen to Butcher? Will he survive season 4? Well, he has to. He really has to. He was not that central character for the entire show. If I'm not wrong, he had the least screen time in this season. But I hope that changes in the 4th episode, and that Joe Kessner, that animal of his, unleashes at the end, and just embrace the fact that he is one of the soups now. Well, that's all my thoughts on the episode number 7 of Boys season 4. Well, do share your thoughts on this episode in the comments given below, and as always, thank you so much for watching.